The UN estimates that by 2050 there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish.
It's estimated that 100 million tons of plastic are generated globally each year.
Local authorities have been forced to close beaches due to mounds of plastic rubbish.
Hello, I'm Tammy Dange, an executive turned social entrepreneur. It's clear that Mother Nature has a plastics problem, but I think it's time to quit talking about the problem. Instead, let's talk about the solutions. This is a business podcast with an environmental mission. And as your host of the Plastics Revolution, I'm going to chat with the innovators, change makers, and fellow entrepreneurs who are leading the way in fighting plastic waste. Along the way, we'll also share tips and practical ideas so that you too can be part of the solution. This is the Plastics Revolution. Today we meet with Stephanie Stubbe from Melbourne, Australia. She's a practicing veterinarian who founded Anipal, the first Australian company to make dog collars and leads from recycled plastics. In 10 short months, she has managed to sell out her first order without spending a dime on marketing. And yet this company was never about the money, but a way to champion changes to the vet industry to be more sustainable in their practices. I hope you enjoy this episode, A Plastics Revolution with Stephanie Stubbe from Anipal. Steph, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I find it interesting that we both have some sort of tie back to RSPCA. Now, for our listeners not based in Australia, RSPCA is like the ASPCA in America. And I used to be at RSPCA ACT, which is the Australian Capital Territory. And you're even working right now at RSPCA Victoria.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing. We've both got the interests in animal welfare and animal protection, and then that has consequently led us to exploring the plastic space and how we can prevent that affecting animals and wildlife.
That's right. I think there's a lot of people that have a common interest between animals and the environment. Now let's talk about you for a second, because when I did my research, it looked like you just recently graduated from school as a vet in the last couple of years. Have you always known that you wanted to be a vet?
Not exactly. I grew up on a sustainable beef farm, and animals have always been number one in my family's life. Like, we were never allowed to have dinner or be fed until all the animals were fed and looked after. So I guess in my family, animals have always been number one, and science has always been really important because both my parents have a science background. And consequently, I grew up always knowing I wanted to get into science, but I also loved languages and I loved to adventure. So I actually originally ended up in arts and then quickly realised that wasn't quite for me. I was studying languages then and then moved into science, and then consequently was like, of course, vet science. That makes perfect sense.
So you became a vet, and you've been working as a vet for the last couple of years.
Yes.
And then the reason why I actually found you was not because of that RSPCA connection. It was because I was looking for a product that I can add as part of my crowdfunding campaign as I suppose, a prize if a pledger did not want to buy my product, but wanted to get involved in some way. And because my product has to do with pets, I was looking for some sort of recycled plastic dog accessory, I suppose.
Yes.
And that's when I found so much public media around your story. How did you get involved in plastic, and how did Anipal's start?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a long story, but
we have time.
Yeah, perfect. So I guess growing up, the environment and animals has always been at the forefront of my family's life, and we live on the Murray River where it's periodically it floods, and when the floodwaters recede, there is plastic and litter everywhere. And so then over the next few months, you are picking up things all around the paddocks so that the cattle don't eat them, and you want to look after your land. And so waste management has always kind of been at the forefront of my mind. And then we actually went away to Kenya as a family. Just when I graduated vet school, we went for a horse ride in the Masai Mara. And entering Kenya, you have to make sure you don't have any plastic bags on you. They pat you down, they look in your bags, so you have to make sure you don't have any plastic bags on you, or you are sent to prison. They've been so firm in implementing that law, which is fascinating. And then when we entered Kenya and then we went on the horse ride in Masai Mara in the middle of this just amazing landscape that is so pristine and untouched, you just get overwhelmed by the beauty. And then I came back here and I had a bit of a culture shock back in Melbourne, because it's so busy and there's pollution everywhere, and it gets you thinking. And then I started working as a vet and quickly realised how much plastic there is actually in our profession, and it can be really hidden as well, and you don't know about it, including dog collars and leashes. And that's where I really had a shock, because I discovered my own dog's collar, which feels like natural fibre. It was actually made out of virgin plastic. So,
when did it go from a concern or even an advocate of reducing your plastic consumption to, I want to do something more?
It actually happened immediately. Like that moment I put that collar on Billy and then the leash on Billy, and then I actually went straight to the computer and started Googling and researching. It immediately, when I realised it was made from virgin plastic, I was like, well, this is absurd. We have so much plastic that's out there in the environment and it's waste streams. We need to be replacing this with recycled versions and just help the circular economy. It was an instantaneous thing.
And so were you looking to just buy a different kind of color at the time?
No, funnily enough, that was where my science brain came in. It was like, oh my gosh, we need to trial if we can make the same product with the same durability, but out of recycled plastic. So I guess I disappeared down that scientific investigation pathway, and I wasn't going to be satisfied until I had a recycled product in my hand to know if it could be an equivalent.
I'm just trying to figure out from a explorer perspective, if you started down a search to say, do people make collars out of recycled plastic? And I want to buy one versus I'm going to make one. I mean, that's a totally different way of looking at it.
Yeah. I never thought about, do I need to buy one? It was always, right, we need to be changing this as an industry as a whole.
Okay.
It was always like, I think it was to that, because I had been shocked and shaken that much, I was automatically right, thinking this is overwhelming and this is messed up, we need to change.
As an industry.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed when I did some research on your background that you've been involved in veterinarian groups even when you were younger.
Yes. So when I was at vet school, I actually became involved in a program called SproutX, and that helps ag tech startups find their feet and go through an accelerator program, get funding and find partners in the industry to help take their ideas to the next level and test to see if it can be validated and if it can be commercialized. So that's where I worked throughout uni. I worked for a while there post-uni as well. We had a project that I needed to finish, and then that's when I moved across into vet medicine when that was done. So I guess the trialling something to see if we can solve a problem had always been a bit ingrained in me. So that was just my automatic jump when I discovered this problem.
Yeah. And did you also start a not-for-profit as well?
Oh, yes. So during vet school, I got a bit alarmed that so many of us finished the program and some of us will end up running businesses. If we want to make a relatively stable income in the vet industry, it can be really challenging if you work as an employee. And so sometimes if you want a bit more flexibility, it's best to become a business owner, but that comes along with a whole lot of its own stresses and requires a whole new skill set that we actually we weren't getting trained for during the vet school program. And so that's when I went about doing, I guess, some more research, that scientific element again, and discovered that in the US, they have a big program that's run between vet schools over there, Veterinary Business Management Association, and they provide programs for vet students to be able to gain certification in business skills. So when they can apply that when they finish vet school, because vet it's a medical program, but if you are going to run a business that survives, you need to have some business skills as well. So developed a similar thing here at Melbourne University.
Okay, well, that would explain your business savvy as well. I suppose it was also for me, doing the research on your background, was also recognizing that you already had this view that it was never just about yourself, that you've always thought of it as an industry problem, not a personal problem, which is a very different perspective than most vets.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never really thought about it like that. I guess I've always seen us as a bit of a collective, and if any change is going to be made, we need to do it on an industry-wide level if we're going to have actually a significant change and movement in behaviour.
At this point in time, I'm not sure how you made it through school because you had so many other projects going on. It sounds like you're quite busy.
I don't know. My poor partner, he sometimes says that he has a diploma in vet science now.
He probably knows a lot right now.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, especially, I know Australia's market. I'm not sure about the American market, but probably similar, that a vet like yourself can go through years and years of school and get paid less than someone who's in IT who just came out of a really basic program.
Yeah.
It's pretty discouraging for vets to stay in as a vet for a period of time. And that's probably why we have a shortage of vets here in Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go back to this business sense, though, because you've obviously learned a few things from that program that you set up to learn more about running a vet clinic. Was that translatable when you decided, I'm going to just start a business I'm going to learn how to make collars out of recycled plastic, and I'm a vet, but I'll figure it out. I mean, was that useful for you to use that information? Was that the foundational skills that you brought with you to start a business?
I think developing BAVS, Business Association for Vet Students, definitely did help with Anipal in regards to not necessarily the content that we learned that was more specific to vet practices, but it was about how you can create a movement and you can encourage people and you can plant a seed that that can grow. I think realizing that you can do that if you see a problem and you talk to people and discover that they too feel that problem, and then you test it a little bit, and then you can help it grow. And it's learning that I think gave me the confidence to be like, hey, this is worth a shot. This is a much bigger issue, and this is a lot more of an important issue. And I think vets in particular are at the forefront of this issue, and we're in a position where we really should be helping combat that. I think it is our responsibility. A bit, I know that's saying a really big thing, but it's not. We're not causing that. I think it's on us a little bit to help lead the change.
So you decided to start a business. It doesn't sound like it was ever about the money, though.
No, it's definitely not been about the money. It's entirely been, can we help transition our industry across, and can we prove that this is a viable alternative?
Yeah. And at the same time, in order to be sustainable, you have to be able to make a profit.
Exactly.
So one of the things I think you told me the other day was that you've actually never spent a dime on marketing.
No, I would have no idea where to even go to do that. Like I vaguely know from SproutX, there's Google AdWords and there's Google Ads and just things that was taught in the program to our startups. But I've not actually approached that at all. I think the fact that I've still been working clinically 4 days a week has meant that I've really only been focusing on product and product testing and product. Can we change the industry? Is the industry receptive? And pushing my product out there hasn't been a focus. It's more been about, hey, what do we think vets and the vet industry, can we do this and try and use it as a proof case that we can do this another way.
So let's go back with your scientific brain to starting this from scratch, because I know from my own personal experience that unless you somehow grow up into this industry, most of us have no clue really how to manufacture something. Let's walk through this process. Okay, you decided that there's got to be a better way to make a sustainable collar for dogs. Then how did you find out what to do next?
A lot of research and a lot of calls. So I've discovered one thing I think I do okay in and I'm comfortable with is calling up strangers and asking them a lot of questions, and finding out information in a way where, I'm normally calling them because I'm fascinated about something that they're doing. And then it's remarkable how welcoming people are to actually talk to you about what they do, what their profession is, and help when you say, hey, I've got this crazy idea, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. They're normally really receptive to be like, oh, you should talk to this person or this person.
Did you go trying to figure out how to manufacture the collar first, or did you go trying to find the material first?
I went trying to find the material first. First, I discovered that how the process of polyester is made and how plastic is melted down and then it's made into flakes and then or pellets, and then that is spun into yarn. And that's where, because I wanted to see, hey, is there ideally a manufacturer here in Australia or a recycler that does this process? And then I started calling around a lot of different manufacturers and companies and recyclers, and they all gave me the same answer, that the last fibre spinner in Australia manufacturer shut down about 10 years ago. And I kept on getting that same feedback. And so then I started asking, well, where do you guys source your fibres? And then I was getting all sorts of leads of where to look overseas. And they really were all focused on Southeast Asia if you wanted the recycled product. So that's where I went to next. And then I've had, fortunately, one of my friends runs a company in the ag industry which does source some recycled products as well as actually virgin plastic products for the ag industry here. And he's not in fibre at all. He's in kind of silage wrap and things like that. And he helped me, he provided me one of his contacts who he's met a million times overseas and works with, and helps him out as a really good contact in China. And so he was fantastic. I've spoken with him numerous times, and he's helped to validate things for me. And I've also got third parties involved, and it's just been really helpful having that point of contact.
So you figured out you couldn't get the yarn from Australia, and then you found a source of the yarn in China?
I originally found a source of the yarn in China, and then consequently after that, I found an even better, well, when I say better, one that I was more comfortable with because they spoke English a lot better, in Taiwan. And that's who I ended up going with. But originally, I found and sourced some prototypes from actually a couple of different manufacturers in China. I've actually still got those prototypes.
Well, the good thing is that people generally know what a collar is. They probably did have something already on hand that they can reuse in terms of I'm not sure if they call it a mold like we do in injection plastics.
They have actually just sent out the end product, or they'll just send out filament yarn. I've got some actual just filament yarn because that's the next step I've taken after that, trying to get more of the product made here in Australia.
Okay, so keep going with that line of thought, the filament yarn itself.
Yes.
You did your first order with this company in Taiwan.
Yep.
And how many units did you order then?
So I don't know anything about manufacturing. And poor Sam, who I still talk with a lot, he was the one who's in the manufacturing space for the ag industry, who I called way too many times and asked him way too many questions. But he's been absolutely fantastic. And so I really knew nothing about manufacturing, but I was like, right, I want to see if people are interested in this collar, and I want to see if we can get it to market at a reasonable price point, and that to see if this is self-sustaining. And then we can order in more product and see if we can make this actually help show the industry, hey, this is a viable alternative. Little did I know that minimum order quantity was 100 of each size of each SKU. I didn't know what SKU was. I was Googling, like, what is SKU and all sorts of things.
There are probably people listening that don't know what that is either, but that resulted in how many total collars?
That resulted in 1,300 collars and leashes that arrived. Oh my gosh, the photos are unbelievable. All these boxes just arrived. And then I just remember George looking at me, my partner, being like, Steph, what have you done? And it took up our living room for a very long time.
I bet. So that was 1,300 in the first order that you were just trying to test.
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to test. Oops, and George was like, this is where you learn, Steph, about small orders to start with to trial products.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's okay. Hopefully it wasn't too expensive, and it looks like you probably got through most of it.
Yeah, which, has been quite incredible. We're now 10 months in of actually having product on the market, and it looks like, as of my chat yesterday, that I might be out of product. So they've told me I really need to reorder.
So is that of the original 1,100 that you ordered?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first lot of shipment, and then they're probably ordering a lot more from you. Okay,
Yeah.
So you're just about to go into the second order, and you've switched suppliers.
So this is where I'm at now in regards to, pending on how quickly need a second order and their commitment in helping me bring the process to Australia more. I'm hoping for the next order to be us importing yarn made from marine upcycled plastic. And then we have a local manufacturer here, George, who, not my partner George, different George. He's been amazing. I've caught up with him so many times, and he's been helping navigate with this company overseas that makes the marine plastic, because again, marine plastic into yarn, because again, we don't have those facilities here in Australia. What type of exact yarn we actually need to be able to make the product, because it's another language. They talk deniers, they talk all this, like it's very confusing. And so I would engage George in all those emails, conversations with this company overseas to actually work out what specific yarn we want, we got in multiple types from different companies, and George, my manufacturer, was most comfortable and happy with a particular manufacturer. And then that's where we're at now. Their minimum order is 1,000 kilos of that kind of yarn. So that's where we're at now. Do we order that, or do we keep proceeding right now until we've grown a bit more with our current supplier? So I guess it comes down to now speed of delivery, costs, and then my heart is in the marine plastics as well, and trying to get things more and more onshore here. And it's just the commitment of these larger organisations. Can we go down that path now, or do we wait a little bit?
How comfortable are you that the plastic you're actually receiving, that they're saying is recycled plastic, actually is?
So I've had it third-party audited, which has made me feel a lot more comfortable. And that third party is a US-based company that does these kind of audits for very large organisations. And the manufacturer I'm working with actually has and does work with Adidas.
People in the US, Adidas is pronounced Adidas in America. So we're talking about your Taiwanese supplier at this time. Okay. Now, if you're thinking about marine plastic right now for your next order, is that coming from the same company in Taiwan?
No, coming from a company that's actually based in Spain. And their main market that they provide this product to is the fashion industry. So that's why it's taken a lot of emails from my local manufacturer to talk to them, because the fibre we're after for our collars and leashes is actually quite different to the fibre that goes into textiles. So it's actually been a year-long project, and the amount of emails has been unbelievable to then be able to get the right yarn out here for us to be able to make collars and leashes from.
Okay, so you're thinking about another order. How much would the next order be based on current demand?
Pretty much, because this has been a startup that's only had a very tiny investment of my own put in it, it would be the cash that I've got to date, I would be reinvesting. And growth-wise, if some of the large companies who are interested, I don't see how I'm going to actually manage all of that demand, maybe without more investment, possibly. So I need to, do some numbers.
What did you say the minimum order was for the plastic, the ocean plastic?
It's 1,000 kilos. So that would do us.
But you probably need a warehouse too.
Yes, I would need a warehouse. I think George, our local manufacturer, he actually has space there as well. He is able to help out because his son's a vegan and he's really interested in this space as well.
It's important to find good partners that believe in your vision.
Yes, exactly.
So you're lucky that you found one here.
Yes.
In Melbourne. So your business is a startup, but you're obviously looking at the next phase where it has potential to grow significantly, depending on whether or not you have these big buyers that come through.
Yes.
Originally, you didn't start this for the money, though. So you started it because of the impact you wanted to make. How do you see your future growth aligning with that original vision?
So this is where I start, actually, and I'm sure a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I start questioning my abilities to be able to take it to the next level because I don't have a big background in business. And it's now getting to a point where it requires, I believe, someone who has more experience. And that's where I think we can make the most impact. And I do think we can also move into white label manufacturing, toll manufacturing. But it's now getting to a scale where I don't feel like I'm equipped with the skill set to be able to execute that well. Yeah. I feel like my strength is trialing new things, seeing if it can be grown and if there's appetite, and then enabling something to move on to the next level. I've never been at this point before where I begin to feel uncomfortable, because we're talking numbers and scale and size, which is not in a vet's
tool set.
Yeah, tool set and words effectively. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other thing, a lot of founders find themselves in this position.
Yes.
It's just that not everyone has the self-awareness to be sure that they might want to bring someone else on to manage the company to help it grow. I think, in fact, a lot of founders stay too long into the day-to-day operations to the point that the company is handicapped and unable to continue to grow because they just don't have the skill set or the knowledge, or maybe they just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tasks in businesses that aren't as fun as the startup phase.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So well done, being aware of your own interest and capability. I think you're also probably underselling yourself, because you've definitely have started a number of things in the past, and it shows this continuous interest in doing good for something beyond yourself. So without thinking about yourself at this moment, in the position that you're in as the founder and CEO and everything else, what would you like to see your company do?
Honestly, and this sounds scary, I would love in 5 to 10 years if the vet industry in Australia in particular were great stewards of plastic. I would love if the vast majority of products in the vet industry are made from sustainable fibres or recycled fibres. I would love Anipal to help be a instigator of that, be it we toll manufacture for these other companies, we grow, which currently, as one of the large companies which actually has just signed up and we've signed with, they've said we are the tools for the vet, and they see Anipal as the tools, providing the tools for the vet industry to be sustainable. And that's what Anipal's heralding in, and that's what I want to see it herald in more. But I want the changes to be big, and I want the industry to really change, because I do think in 5 to 10 years, if a company is not showing commitment to improving the environmental sustainability of their organisation and helping combat climate change and plastic waste, then that company is going to become irrelevant. I really think in the next 5 to 10 years.
It's interesting you say that, because up until recently, the vet practice has been largely independent mom and pop type shops. And we've seen a lot of consolidation in recent times with larger companies buy out a lot of these small vet companies to turn it into a more of a corporate environment with shared services as well. So they do have more influence and power.
Yes.
The bigger they are, and greater responsibility, as you say, as well.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to share with our listeners?
I think it actually all starts with the buyer, the consumer. They're the ones that are actually able to demand and create change. And it's a bit like what's happening with the movement in schools, and what's happening today, actually, 2:00, and I hope to be there, the climate strike. I love it how a US politician I read yesterday was stated that the climate strike that Greta has helped form in this world and the movement, it has resulted in the emergence of a whole new political group worldwide, and that political group is school kids. And it really has. And that comment that the US politician said really struck with me, and it shows the power actually of the people and their decisions. And when they make a conscious choice to buy a product that is sustainable or recycled, they're helping change and steer business in the right direction.
Now, by the time we actually broadcast this podcast, we might actually see what the results were from that 20 September event and see if there has been any push or influence in various countries because the younger people are making a larger voice collectively. And you too, because you're on just the edge of that in terms of generational.
Yes.
And interest in the environment. Is there a way that if people wanted to reach out and chat with you or learn more about Anipal, where can they go to do that?
They can easily shoot me an email, jump on the website, and you can actually write. There's a message area that you can write directly to me, or you can shoot me an email at hello@anipal.com.au.
Okay, so that's anipal.com.au.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and put all those details in the show notes so people, if you want to reach out and chat with Steph about her views about the vet industry and where they can clean up their act, even by starting small in terms of providing products like collars and leads that are made out of recycled plastic rather than virgin plastic, then make sure you check out our website. Steph, thanks for joining us today.
No, not at all. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thanks for joining me today on this podcast. If you want to see the links or to review any information we spoke about today, then check out our show notes on this channel or on our website, plasticsrevolution.com. If you found anything interesting or helpful at all, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to our show and to tell others. Stay tuned next week as I chat to another innovator, change maker, or fellow entrepreneur who is leading the plastics revolution. This is Tammy Dange. Be kind to animals and Mother Nature.